wisdom teeth extracted, and then I got very ill, got taken to the hospital, and then got a surprise diagnosis of having AML leukemia, which is a very dangerous, very rapidly evolving type of blood cancer.
Yes.
And I decided not to go the typical route, which would be chemo. Instead, I decided to go home and do a detox.
All right.
And so I'm 2 weeks in, and so far it's going extremely well. And I just wanted to talk to you about that, if you had anything to add to that.
You understand that we cannot discuss health issues?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So all we can say is that you had the wisdom to create a synchronicity that would reveal to you something that you needed to pay attention to.
Right. Right. And so I'm not necessarily asking for advice at all. I just thought if there's anything else there, because I feel like this is a pretty big life event for me.
It is. And it depends on what you do with it. It depends on what you learn about yourself through this process and this experience, which is why most people create these kinds of experiences for themselves. You can ask yourself the question, what is it focusing me on that otherwise I may not have focused on? That's usually what the important issue is in why this has been created by you as a process or an experience.
Yeah.
First and foremost, again, as I said, the synchronicity of the wisdom tooth leading you to this particular awareness. So you can start your synchronistic symbols there, but again, explore the idea. And you will know more about this as you go through the process of what it is getting you to focus on that you might otherwise not have focused on had you not created this. Not that you necessarily need it, but obviously at one point you believed you did, because this is what you felt you needed to bring your attention to something that will be very important for you to pay attention to within your life, about the kind of choices you're making and the kind of changes that you prefer to make in your life. And you have to know this will help you make them more easily if you learn the lessons and pay attention to what it is you are being forced to focus on by having this experience in your life.
Right. And so
that is what we will say.
Yeah, and so I find it so interesting because I actually find this whole situation pretty exciting.
All right. That is a good state of being to stay in so that you can experience the information and the lessons you need to learn in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's really come out for me is that one thing that I'm most excited about is that I feel like through this journey, I can also show people that there's alternatives.
Yes.
And not in any way to diss medicine at all. I mean, I think medicine...
No. Again, it's whatever the path of least resistance is for those who have certain belief systems. That's what works.
Right. And so I find this to be a much more joyful, much more effortless path in a way that doesn't contain suffering in the way that chemo does.
All right. Again, if things change for you, go with the flow. Go with the path of least resistance, as synchronicity not only brings you objects, situations, circumstances, opportunities, and symbols to move and guide you forward, but sometimes also, as synchronicity will, prevent you from moving down certain paths, again, as a guiding mechanism that's not necessarily your path of least resistance at this moment.
Right. That makes sense. So we'll just see how it goes, because right now I'm on day 11, I think.
Oh, all right.
So, which is also synchronistic, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you for your willingness to experience your power strongly enough to go through this process and learn what it is you need to learn for your expansion and your growth.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I felt like when I was in the hospital and the doctors would talk to me, and there was very much a sense of urgency that I needed to start chemo right away, and it was dangerous, and like every day I waited, it was going to be more dangerous.
Yes.
And I never felt scared.
All right.
You know, and I think many people in my situation would be scared of dying or other
Many people might, yes.
And so I felt that the whole time I was able to remain in this place of calmness and realize that is like a valid path to choose, of course, but like it was never my path, and I never felt like I needed to go down that path.
All right. Again, just pay attention to your synchronicities to guide you as to exactly how the path needs to flow.
Right.
As long as you are not ruling anything out, you will be open to receiving from synchronicity the appropriate path for you at any given moment.
Right. And so do you have any comments? Because I hadn't thought about that. It was my wisdom tooth extraction that kind of brought, not that it caused it, but it like brought this whole situation to the surface.
Yes, that's what I already addressed. You were wise enough, wisdom enough to use that as a symbol to move you into the situation and circumstance you needed in order to receive this information.
Right. Right. Okay.
What else does it need to represent?
Mm-hmm.
Is that not a sufficient symbol?
No, it's great. It's great.
All right. Then there's nothing else that needs to be said about it. You don't have to overthink it or overcomplicate it.
Right. Okay. May I ask you some other questions unrelated?
Well, that was a question. So what other questions do you have?
So I was always wondering, with your civilization, your planet is Essassani, right?
Yes.
And so do you ever consider living on more than one planet, or how come you only stay on the one when you have the technology to?
I never said we only stay on the one.
Okay.
That's an assumption on your part.
Okay, that's valid. Yeah. So then that is your home world, but then you also have colonized other worlds.
Yes.
Okay. And so is Essassani the most populous world, or are other ones more populous?
It depends upon the environment. It depends upon the purpose of settling on a particular planet as to what drives the needs of the population there. Our homeworld usually never exceeds somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 million.
Yeah.
It is an average that in general is maintained on the colony worlds, but there can be more or less, again, depending upon the nature of the planet and the purpose for why we might be there.
Right. And when you meet other civilizations,
yes,
do most of them communicate with you telepathically, or do you also?
A lot of them do, but some of them do not.
Okay. And so then how do you communicate with those other races? Is it like via technology or?
Well, first of all, remember that we usually make contact with planets in the same way we're making contact with yours.
Mm-hmm.
We have a connection to an individual through whom we may channel information, which then automatically comes out in their language, of course, because we're not speaking English right now.
Right.
So the idea is that we communicate that way, but doesn't mean we don't have the capacity to learn someone's language.
Right. Right. And so in your alliance of worlds,
yes,
is everybody there telepathic, or it's the same thing where some races are and some races are not, and they communicate via other means?
Some races are and some races are not.
Okay. And so could you give a couple examples of the races that are not telepathic, how they communicate? Is it verbal? Is it via like?
Some will communicate verbally in their own language as you would understand it. Some communicate by vibration. Some communicate by color shifts and changes. There are even those that communicate through what you might call electromagnetic waves.
Yeah. Yeah. Super interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And so do you ever colonize planets together with other races, or is it?
We have done so sometimes for various purposes, but it's not necessarily that common.
Yeah. And so if distance isn't really a thing at all, then the planets that you colonize, they can be anywhere in the universe, right? It doesn't matter like which galaxy they're in, because space and time.
Fundamentally, no, it does not matter. But it will be based on certain other parameters that we don't necessarily go into right now. Right. But there may be certain reasons for why we may maintain a particular connection to something that isn't necessarily that far away, as you would say, in your sense of distance.
Yeah.
It just depends.
Yeah.
But no, distance in that sense is not really an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, super interesting. Does your Alliance of Worlds have any kind of rules as to colonizing planets and like how many you can colonize or where they are, or is?
Well, guidance perhaps that best serves. But the idea is, of course, there is always the non-interference directive of making sure that we don't interfere with civilizations that already exist in a way that would be detrimental to them. We only colonize worlds, as you use that term, that don't necessarily have habitation on them. So the idea is there are guidelines and so on and so forth, but not anything you would really call a hard and fast rule in the way that humans tend to think of those things.
Right.
Because again, remember, we operate on pure synchronism.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we synchronistically wind up exactly where we need to be, doing exactly what we need to do that serves the best of all concerned.
Right. And so for your race, because you're transitioning to quasi-physical, is there any need?
No, we are quasi-physical.
All
We're
right.
transitioning to non-physical.
Right. Sorry. Apologies.
No apology necessary.
Do you have any need at all to exercise in any way, or like move your body in any certain way, or like mentally?
Well, we do move our bodies, but we don't really have a need to exercise in the way that you think of it. No.
Right.
Remember, we also no longer eat and no longer sleep.
Right. Are there any kind of mental trainings that you do, or like any type of training at all?
Well, I went through a training period to learn to become a first contact specialist. So yes, it depends on what you're doing.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah. No, I think that was it, Bashar. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. We thank you for the interaction. Good day.
Good day. Thank you.
Oh. All right. I'll take that as an okay. First and foremost, once again, we thank each and every one of you individually, all of you together collectively, for the co-creation of this interaction. It is a great gift to us that allows us to experience our passion and our pleasure in communicating with all of you. Let us begin this transmission, which is titled the Mind-Body Meditation. It is based on what we have termed the 7 basic needs in life, in physical reality. Now, we're not going to do the meditation right now, but we're going to tell you how to do the meditation, and we will do a short version of it later on. For now, let us remind each and every one of you what the 7 basic needs in physical reality are. They are generally ordered by the amount of time it would take you to die if you didn't have it. The quicker ones being first. Now, some of them may seem like the lack thereof would cause you to physically die. Some of them don't necessarily seem that way, but they would allow you to experience, if you didn't express them, what you might perceive as a kind of diminishment of spirit, which could lead to the idea of depression and could lead to the idea of death, but it takes longer for most people. So let us begin to remind you of the 7 basic needs, first of all, before we go through the description of the mind-body meditation. Number 1, you need air. Without it, you will die physically relatively quickly. Now, please, before we continue, understand we are talking about the average, typical human. We understand that there may be beings on your planet that are shamans or medicine people or great teachers that may to some degree have been able to transcend some of the things we're about to say as basic human needs. But we're not talking about them, we're talking about what most of you would experience. So air. Very rapidly, without it, physical death will come. Next will be water. You will find that without water, you may last roughly about a week. Many of you might think the next would be food, but it's not, it's sleep. You need sleep. You need to connect to spirit. You need to dream. You need to process in that way. You need to recharge in that way. And without it, you will find that in about, give or take, 11 days, you will start to go insane and probably start to die. Next is food. And you can last about 2 weeks without it, give or take. Now, after that, you find that the length of time gets a little bit longer and it becomes something a little bit different. So those are the first 4. Next is what you might typically call shelter. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean a house. It simply means whatever environment is conducive to you thriving in physical reality. If you are in a particular area on your planet that is comfortable and allows you to exist without an actual typical shelter, that's fine. So we are really just talking about a conducive environment, be it a house or living in the jungle. Next comes the idea called connection or relationship. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship with a human. It can be a relationship with an animal. It can be a relationship with a tree, with a rock, with the cosmos, with all that is. But some form of sense of connection, of belonging, of being part of all that is also necessary, or you will sort of start to feel a spiritual atrophy within you. You will feel cut off and lonely. Finally, you have the idea of what we might call creative expression. In other words, what we have talked about many times about acting on your passion, expressing yourself, the true self in life. The idea of this creative expression, if dampened down, if held back, will again cause that internal, emotional, and spiritual atrophy that will allow you to feel that you are not being you. Again, may allow you to feel disconnected from all that is in a variety of ways, and can lead to depression and death over long periods of time. So these are the 7 basic needs. If you allow yourself to have air, to have water, to have sleep, to have food, to have shelter, to have connection, and to have creative expression, your life will be fulfilled. Anything that you need will come to you that will fulfill you on these basic needs. There are different extrapolations of these needs, different, shall we say, sub-levels of these needs, expressed in a number of different ways, but these are the overall 7 basic categories. And if you can allow yourself to let your needs be fulfilled, then you can live a life of joy. Now, let me remind you that needs are not always the same thing as what you want. Sometimes what you want can coincide with what you need, but sometimes, and on your planet, sometimes not at all, it usually doesn't. Sometimes wants can simply be something from the negative ego that it may think it needs, which may have nothing at all to do with what you actually need to be fulfilled in life. So pay attention to the fact that sometimes what you want may have nothing at all to do with what you actually need to be a fulfilled person in your reality. Just a reminder. So now that we have stated the idea of the 7 basic needs in life that can allow you to feel fulfilled and live a life of creative joy, being who you are, who you truly prefer to be, the mind-body meditation that is based on these 7 needs will allow you to really link your mind, your body, your spirit, your higher mind, allow them to harmonize more strongly, and allow your life to accelerate, to be able to be open to letting these needs be fulfilled along the path of least resistance in your life. So, let us now describe this meditation. Do this when you wish. It is and can be a powerful permission slip to allow you to accelerate your energy and balance your energy in life. So, first and foremost, as we said, air. Each of these segments of the meditation will take 5 minutes. Not today, not right now, but when you wish, in a comfortable place, on your own schedule, on your own timing. So, air. When you decide to do this meditation, if you do, start with air, and for 5 minutes, just allow yourself to breathe. Gently in, gently out, and really start to appreciate the idea of how the air comes into your lungs, how it fills you up, how it energizes you. And then when you let it out, that feeling of release, that feeling of letting go of that which has nothing to do with who you truly are. In and out, the ebb and flow of life, force, and energy. Let it oxygenate you, allowing you to handle more energy, higher frequency energies. For 5 minutes, just feel the beauty of being able to breathe, the refreshment of the air that revitalizes and refreshes you. Just allow yourself to experience that for 5 of your minutes. If you need to set timers for this when you're meditating, that's fine. If you don't feel like you need it, that's fine. It doesn't have to be precise. You can shift from one moment, one basic need to the next when you feel that it's correct. Remember, like any permission slip that we may suggest, it's up to your own imagination, your own sense of your own body consciousness, your own sense of timing to decide when to flow from one thing to another. Let your imagination and your higher mind guide you in this. It doesn't have to be absolutely precise. All we're simply saying is that 5 minutes will suffice for each segment to give you the full effect of this particular mind-body meditation permission slip. So after you have allowed yourself to feel the beauty of the revitalization, of the oxygenation of the air that you breathe, then go to water. Now, if you actually wish in the meditation to take a sip of cool, refreshing water first, that's fine too. Again, let your imagination be your guide. But in that segment, allow yourself to feel the sensations, whether in your imagination or literally, of that cool, clear, refreshing water that you're drinking in, filling up your cells, plumping them up, giving you the medium by which communication can happen between the cells, giving you the medium by which the electric currents in your body can travel most efficiently, giving you that sense of connection to the water of the world, to the water that you are mostly made of as a physical being, to the water that covers most of your planet, to the rain that rains down upon you and allows things to grow. Feel all the aspects of the idea of that flow of water through you that again revitalizes and refreshes you and opens you up to deeper connections in the world through water. Allow yourself to go through that sensation and appreciate and be grateful for the idea of that sensation of the cool, refreshing sensation of water in your body, the slaking of your thirst, the hydration of your form, and anything else that comes into your imagination that will allow you to more fully appreciate and be grateful for the idea of that wonderful, life-sustaining water. And then you shift to the idea of sleep. Now, if you fall asleep in the meditation, that's fine. But allow yourself to focus more on the idea of the purpose of it. You can begin to feel the sensation, the coziness of laying down after a wonderful day and you're a little bit tired and you're excited to get some sleep and you feel yourself drifting off into that wonderful, restful place, feeling your energy calming down, feeling everything smoothing out and balancing out, that wonderful, cozy sensation of the blankets over you, your head resting on the pillow or wherever it is you like to lie down or sit up and drift off into sleep, drift off into dreamland. Again, whether you actually do it or not, allow yourself to appreciate that what you're doing when you sleep is actually waking up into your true spirit self and making that connection to more of your being which resides in spirit. Because you never really leave spirit. You're all there right now. You're just dreaming that you've left, and that's what physical reality is. So when you ponder in this meditation the concept of going to sleep, it is actually waking up from the physical dream. So the idea is to wake up into more of your spirit self, make that connection, be aware of that connection, let that connection be like the charging of your battery, the realigning of your being, the order of your mind, the template level that determines what you experience in physical reality that you can rearrange in the direction of what you prefer to manifest in the physical world. Allow yourself to feel that connection to more of your being, the fullness of your being, and how much bigger you are as a consciousness. Be in that state floating. Feel the floating and the appreciation of that connection and the sensation of that beautiful floating on the currents of the ocean of creation as you drift off into dreamland, into dreamtime, in the timeless void. Allow yourself to ponder that for the 5 minutes. And then allow yourself to go into the idea of food. And again, if you wish to take a small bite of something that you enjoy and feel the pleasure of that sensation and the taste and the texture as it explodes in your mouth, and as you imagine or really chew and swallow, and you feel the revitalization and the energization of what it is that you are imagining or truly eating, and the gratitude and appreciation for the receiving of that sustenance and that support in life that energizes your body, that keeps it alive and thriving in your world. Allow yourself for that 5 minutes all of the enjoyment and the sensations of the idea of how food sustains you in your life. And allow yourself again that deep appreciation for that gift from your world that it supplies to you, that it uses to sustain you as extensions of nature. Because you are not in nature, you are nature. You are extensions of Gaia, of the earth consciousness, nature itself, and you are sustained by nature itself and all the teachers that the earth has to give you, that are natural, that work with you to expand your consciousness and also at the same time ground you to earth. Allow yourself to feel those wonderful sensations and different flavors and tastes rolling around in your mouth, on your taste buds, in your body, and the energy that comes from that as you move through life, as you see yourself gaining energy, being more active in life. Ponder that for that 5 minutes. And then move to the idea of shelter or environment. If you are in a place that you love, then appreciate it. Appreciate every angle of it, every corner of it, the color of it, the smell of it, the textures of it, the things it is made of. Or imagine the idea of your ideal dwelling or your ideal environment, whether it be indoors or outdoors. Feel upon you the sensations of either being in that dwelling or outside with the sun and the moon and the wind. Whatever it is that allows you to feel comforted, allows you to feel that you're thriving in that environment, allows you to feel that you are protected in that environment, not in the fear-based sense, but just nurtured and held in the arms of that environment, supported and sustained by that which is representative of your house. Again, be it inside or outside, but the product of all your beliefs that are in alignment and harmonious with who you truly prefer to be, that provide for you the dwelling, the environment, the world itself, in all of its physicalness, in all of its tangibility, in all of its sensations, that allow you to thrive and come and go and know that you will always have a place called home. And it will always welcome you. You will always belong there. Whether you move or not, whatever you call home, you will always belong because home is within you. And you take it wherever you go. As long as you are following the path of least resistance that is representative of the path of your passion, wherever you wind up through synchronicity will always feel correct, will always feel supportive, will always feel nurturing, and will always feel like home. Because you will be that home, and it will be reflected to you in the reflective mirror reality around you that you call the physical world. And allow yourself deep appreciation of that environment, whatever it may be. And then you move on to the idea of connection and relationship. Be it the people in your life, friends, family, lovers, matters not. Be it again an animal, a tree, a rock, the ocean, the stars, the cosmos, all that is. It doesn't matter. It only matters that you know you are connected and that you allow yourself to feel that sensation of belonging, of being, and knowing that you are worthy, or you would not exist, because creation doesn't make mistakes. So if you exist, then you are needed. There is connection. There never is not connection. Sometimes we know you can feel disconnected. But just remind yourself, as we discussed in the transmission called The Power of Paradox, that you cannot have a feeling or an experience of disconnection unless you're connected. Because you are drawing from all that is as an aspect, as a reflection, as a facet of the multidimensional crystal of creation, of all that is. You are drawing upon that connection to create whatever sensation, even sensations that make you feel like you are disconnected, that you have no relationship, that you are alone, cut off. You're still creating that with your connection. So that sensation of being connected, being a part of something, community, or even a blade of grass, will allow you to know that you are indestructible at your core, that you cannot cease to exist because you belong to all that is, and that you are worthy and deserving of being your true self. And that you can appreciate the reflections that you get from all the relationships that you may attract in your life. Again, be it people or otherwise. Everything is a mirror in some way, shape, or form. It may not always show you a one-to-one reflection, but it is there for a reason. And the fundamental purpose of relationship is for everyone and everything in that relationship to reflect to everything else in the relationship what you need to know to become more of who you truly are, so that you can see yourself in those relationships. See something you need to know about yourself in those relationships, even as you are willing to support the others in those relationships to know what they need to know about themselves to become more of who they truly are. So have deep gratitude and deep appreciation for the relationships of all kinds in your life, no matter what they may be, no matter how they may come into your reality. Appreciate them and see deeply into them, the reflections they are there to show you, so that you may learn and you may grow and remember who you truly are. And then allow yourself to shift into creative expression. And it is this, the seventh segment, the seventh need of truly expressing your passion, that is the trigger for the formula that we have given all of you of acting on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence or assumption on the outcome, and remaining in a positive state no matter what happens. Because even if something happens you don't prefer, you have to know it's there for a reason. And if you stay in a positive state, you will get the benefit of why it's there. So the idea is that the seventh segment of creative expression, allowing yourself to actually take the actions that you prefer to take on your passion, will actually bring you all the other 6 basic needs through synchronicity, through the tools in the kit of passion. So don't hold back. Appreciate yourself. Appreciate your gifts. Give what you have to give. And remember, you can't just think about it. You can't just meditate on it. You can't just imagine the idea of creative expression. Physical action is the language of physical reality. If you don't actually take action on it, you're not grounding it in the reality, you're not speaking the language, and it's not reflected in your world. But remember, if you do have a gift to give, that is your first clue that there must be someone in your world waiting to receive it, or you would not be excited about giving it, because there would be no purpose and no point to it. If you have something to give, there is always someone waiting to receive it. Don't hold back from them. Don't deprive them of what you have to give that is a true reflection of your passion. Appreciate yourself enough to be yourself instead of attempting to be someone you're not. So spend that last 5 minutes or whatever timing feels correct to you to have true, deep appreciation for your ability to act on your passion, to be passionate about life, to be passionate about being passionate, to let that energy flow through you, to let yourself channel it and be that conduit, that valve through which beauty comes, through which grace comes, and be a living example of living your dreams. Because you never know who might see you and who might feel that you are in that state of beauty and grace, and you may never know that they saw you, but you may light up their life and change their life just by being a living example of being yourself as fully as you can. You never know. And remember, it's not about creating more impact, because just by being who you are and just by being where you are, you already have all the impact you will ever have. The idea of creating impact in the world is not creating more impact than you have. It's revealing the impact you already have just by being yourself. So allow yourself to bloom, to blossom, to flower, and allow yourself to become one of the many blossoms in the beautiful garden that exists and can exist on the version of earth you prefer to live upon. That will make all the difference in the world. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. Again, permission slips like this and any other are simply techniques and tools that allow you, if they align with your belief system, to give yourself permission to be more of who you are. That's why they're called permission slips. But the idea is that if your imagination decides in some way, shape, or form to add a little of this and add a little of that, change a little of this and change a little of that, whatever feels correct to you is correct. So let your imagination be your guide. You can start this meditation in exactly the way we described it, but over time realize it may shift, it may change. And ultimately, the whole point, as we have said, of any permission slip is to realize that you are the primary permission slip in your life, because you're the one making the changes anyway. The permission slip isn't doing it for you. It's simply aligning with your belief system in a manner that allows you to circumvent your belief system in the way that you prefer to, because you say the tool makes it easier. But that's just a decision and a choice that you've made. Ultimately, you will realize you can just make that choice anytime you wish. And therefore, the idea of the mind-body meditation based on the 7 basic needs will become automatic, entrained within you. You will just know it as first nature, and you will shift as you prefer to, and you will know who you are. So, we thank you for allowing us to deliver this description of the meditation to you. And in return for the gift you have given us in allowing us to experience all of you, I ask you now, how may we continue to be of service? You may begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish.
Truly change the present. In regards to life after death, it seems boring. It seems that it would get old just reflecting upon the 100 or so years we spent alive on Earth for all eternity. Can you please somehow help me with maybe an analogy or something to allow me to understand what it is like after death, to make it not so unappetizing?
Your definition of the afterlife is what, in a sense, is boring. You don't ruminate on your physical life on Earth for 100 years and more for eternity. you go through your life review relatively rapidly, and you are able to make other choices very quickly of experiencing whatever it is you wish to experience. If you really wish a crude analogy, it's like going from the parking lot at your Disneyland into the park when you die, and having all sorts of choices of rides and experiences, just to use that analogy that is something representative of what you have on Earth. It isn't boring at all. It is the exact opposite of that. You have an amazing array of choices laid out before you of what to experience. So open up your imagination and don't buy into outdated definitions or limiting definitions of what the afterlife is like. You have a misinterpretation of that idea.
And in regards to the past changing, once I truly change, what about scars? If I have a different past, shouldn't I not have the same scars? Thank you so much for your help.
Whatever it is you believe you need for the continuity, connections to the idea of the past, you will recreate them in the present over and over and over again. If you truly change to a point where you no longer need that continuity connection, yes, your scars will simply not exist in the new person that you are. Many people have seen this phenomenology occur in what are called multiple personality situations, where one particular personality may have a physical representation of something, and when they shift that personality, the physical representation is no longer there. So the idea is you keep recreating it because of an idea of connection to the past and continuity that you believe is necessary for you to live in physical reality. But yes, it's possible that it would go away or never exist in the person you've become if you change to that degree, if you no longer need that continuity connection.
Oh, hello, Bashar.
Good day.
Greetings. It is James. It is I. I am calling you from the Sacred Valley of Peru. And I have some questions for you. It's nice to speak with you, by the way.
And you
I've
as
had
well.
such a great ride in the past many months since the last time we spoke. And it's been quite a ride. We've been ringing your doorbell. So here we are. And now we're getting to talk to you.
What would you like to discuss?
Well, one question I have is about the future self. And while I'm in the physical, how does that work exactly in the physical to meet him together? Can we do it together as well as like what the channel would do with you? Is it possible?
Yes, it can be done in this way. Again, the idea is that there are an infinite number of probable future selves with regard to the path that you are creating. So it's simply getting in a state of desiring to have that contact in whatever way actually works best for you, and allowing whatever probable future self is most representative of that particular connection to occur in whatever way it needs to in perfect timing. Again, many times you may have already connected to the future self with downloading ideas and information and concepts that you may have thought came from nowhere or everywhere, may have actually been directed by the future self. In a lot of cases, the future self can send information back to the so-called past self to help the past self up the ladder without you even knowing that it came from the future self.
Yes. Well, that's what I've been experiencing with Ely, as I had called him for many years now. And I have been experiencing visitations on Sasani in nature, and it's a looping of an image that I have, and he is guiding me. And the guidance is my intuition is that it's going to a temple. It's going to a building that's on Sasani.
On Esasani.
Esasani.
The Sasani are the people. Esasani is the planet.
Thank you. Thank you. And being here in Peru, is there a connection to an ancient structure that is on Esasani that you have mentioned? And is that connection here by any chance?
It is. Now remember that structures on Esasani are not always permanent, but there's always an energetic template or a representation of any structure that has ever been built, even if temporarily. And yes, there are some strong connections to Peru, some of which we are allowed to discuss and some of which we are not allowed to discuss.
Okay, so I guess the latter will apply. Yes, so we're just investigating that and having a really good time, just exciting to sit anywhere in this land, in this place. And the energy is very intense, and it's an open doorway. So it's wonderful that way.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. I'd like to ask you a little bit about shamans
Yes.
that you have talked about before. Do they play on a different playing field, if you know what I mean? Is there, as far as the astral and the different levels of existence, where are they? Because I've experienced many things where, there's engagements there.
Yes. Yes, of course. When you reach a certain level of understanding and awareness of your consciousness, you may allow yourself to become aware of the different levels of yourself and your consciousness that do exist on those different levels you're referring to, such as astral and so on and so forth, and become more connected in communication and application with those levels of your consciousness. So yes, of course, if you want to say they play on a different level, yes.
Yes, so the interactions that happen at that level, from shaman to shaman, curandero, how does that work? Because I've experienced it being real, but then there's this, my own belief system is there as well.
All right, well, understand, and your own themes are there too. It's not always just about the idea of the belief system limiting you. The theme itself may say it's not relevant for you to experience a certain thing at a certain time until later. But the idea is, it's not that all of you aren't doing that. You all exist on all those different levels. It's just that the shaman has become more aware of it.
Okay. So there's no engagement of shaman to shaman. It's like darts and arrows. We hear these stories and the legends of etheric battles happening from shaman to shaman.
No, not in the way that you mean it. Some of those things and interactions may translate into physical reality as if they are battles, but no, not really. Not in the way you actually mean that as a human being. There are engagements, there are decisions, there are co-creations that play out archetypally in a way that filters down into human consciousness and may seem like a battle, but it's not the kind of battle that you actually think of when you're talking about physical reality.
Okay. Yes, it's a fascinating subject, Bashar, I am grateful in this way. The resonance that came through me to get here, to be here, to talk to you in this way has been, I don't know if anybody can understand it. It's very intense, very strong energy. And I know that it's meeting your frequency. My question really is nothing but a comment to say thank you and how grateful I am in the journey that I've been on in the past 3 years. I've been kicking and screaming. I've been 49%, but we understand what the 51% means. That keeping it, turning it into the positive.
Yes. We thank you and our deep appreciation to you as well. Continue on. Good day.
Ta'atu.
Ta'atu.
South coast of France. The question is about contemporary classical music. Mozart, Beethoven, and many composers were misunderstood in their time for their musical innovations. Today, the modern classical music is even much more dissonant, discordant, strident, shrill, sometimes even ear-splitting. Is it that the contemporary classical music is turning to an abstract, mental, neurotic construction, or is it that contemporary classical music is going to a higher frequency of vibration which is difficult to comprehend and to adjust from our planet and our human ears? Thank you so much, Bashar. You are a tremendous inspiration in my life. Goodbye.
The question you are asking, the answer to that is both. There are things that are representative of realities that are splitting off, that are more disharmonious and discordant, and there are realities where higher frequencies are creating more harmony and representative of an upliftment of energy and vibrational states. Now, that doesn't mean that discordant music now and then can't be applied for positive purposes. So it may not completely be eliminated, even from the reality where things are becoming more harmonious and integrated. And it doesn't mean that harmonies can't be utilized even in some of the discordant realities that might be reflective of the notes that you are saying are more strident. So you have to kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, but in the overall sense, yes, you may find that certain realities and individuals that might be experiencing more disharmony and discord within themselves might relate more easily to the idea of the discordant music, but it might be capable of being utilized as a guiding light and a reminder, or a guiding sound if you wish, and a reminder of the discord that may exist within themselves if they choose to use it that way. But the basic and simple answer is both are true. Are you there?
Hi, sorry, Bashar, I am here.
All right, good day, good day.
Good day, Ha'a too, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for the interaction. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for the technique, the meditation you gave at the beginning there.
Well, I haven't given the meditation yet.
Indeed,
Well, I've only
yeah.
told you the components of it. But yes,
Of course.
you're welcome.
So one of my questions is, I find it challenging to actually act on my passion, to live my passion.
Which is what?
I find it sometimes challenging to know. Excuse me?
You say to act on your passion, which is what? Can you be specific?
Well, in any given circumstance, and more generally in terms of things like creative pursuits or...
Oh, all right. But it's actually quite nonsensical, and I actually don't believe you can't do it, because you're doing it right now. We assume that you're having this conversation because this particular action contained some degree of excitement for you more than any other option at this moment. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So you can do it, and you are doing it. It's just that you have a definition that makes it seem more difficult than it needs to be. Please do remember, and we'll get to the other stuff in a moment, but please do remember, when we talk about acting on your passion, it doesn't have to be a big project, a life-spanning career. We're talking about every single moment. There is always an option that contains even just the tiniest bit more excitement, attractiveness, curiosity than any other, that you have more capability of acting on than any other. So you may find that sometimes talking to a friend or reading a book or eating a meal or watching a film, any of the typical daily things that contains even just the tiniest bit more attractiveness or excitement is the one to do first. That's what we mean fundamentally by always act on your passion. And if you start on that level, on an everyday level, it can build up. It might snowball into bigger and bigger and bigger opportunities being presented to you that you can also act on, that might also be representative of your passion. But you don't have to make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be at the beginning. So there doesn't need to be confusion, because it's just about choosing what seems more exciting than anything else and act on it to the best you can until you can act on it no further. That's all it means. Does that help start to clarify the concept?
I appreciate that, and it's something that I've been aware of, and I do get into a space where I ask myself, okay, what's the next most exciting thing?
All right, but I assume we're having this conversation because there are times when you choose to get out of that space. Why would that be?
There's times when I don't ask myself that question.
Why not?
I think when I do ask myself that question, sometimes the answer doesn't become apparent. I'm not sure which is the most exciting option. And I feel like I can overthink it perhaps. And
yes, many people on your planet do that, overthink it, overcomplicate it. Remember that if things seem equal in excitement or equal in your ability to act on them, you might as well then just flip a coin. And what I just said to the last person can apply to you. It doesn't then matter if all things appear equal, which one you take first. You might as well flip a coin. A, I'll go this way. B, I'll choose that. Because if that's not your path of least resistance, synchronicity will turn you around to the other path that is. You have to really understand how synchronicity works as a guiding and organizing principle in order to relax and let the flow happen naturally and let the signals and the messages from synchronicity be obvious. But if you overthink it, you're only going to confuse yourself, and you're going to blind yourself to what synchronicity is attempting to do to make it clearer as to which way to go and what to act on at any given moment. Is that helping?
That's helpful. Yes, thank you.
Is there a but at the end of that sentence?
Well, I mean, because excitement, as you've spoken about, can be an emotion. Many different emotions can be passion, can be love, can be
Yes.
A sense of calmness.
Yes.
So if we have different options which contain the different emotions,
Yes.
sometimes for me that can be hard to navigate.
I just explained that. I'll explain it again more clearly if you wish. You don't always, when you find something that seems more exciting than anything else, or things that seem equally exciting in different ways, you don't always have the same ability to act on them. That's another way to tell which one to act on first. But as I just said, if you do discover that 2 things or 3 things seem equally exciting, equally attractive, and you have the ability equally to act on any of them, then it doesn't matter which one you choose first, because if it's not the one that serves you best, synchronicity will create situations that turn you around to the one that is. So what difference does it make if you can't tell the difference, since synchronicity will actually be your compass needle to guide you? So why worry about it?
It was more a case of if something feels sort of nurturing to me, and maybe another option feels more exciting in a different way.
Yes.
Then
what's the difference? As long as you're clear as to why you feel the way you do based on your belief system, because we understand, I'm not saying this is the case with you, but just to explain, you say, well, one feels nurturing and one feels exciting. Either of those are fine, aren't they? Yes, no?
yeah, that's true.
So what difference does it make? As long as you're clear that the idea you're now describing as nurturing isn't an avoidance. Do you understand? Because sometimes people will create the idea of, oh, well, this feels more nurturing, but what they're really doing is saying, I'm too scared to go the other way, so I'll choose the one that sort of feels safe to me. That's why you have to be very clear about what you believe in order to understand why you feel what you feel in any case, in any situation. So, fine, one choice seems nurturing, which is fine. Another seems more exciting, which is fine. Those can be equal things. But ask yourself, why does this feel nurturing? Why does this feel exciting? And in that investigation, you may find that there's enough of a difference for you to be able to make a choice more clearly. Because you may find that the nurturing is from an avoidance or something else that's a negative belief, and vice versa. So the idea is, when you clear yourself as to why you have the feelings you have, and if it turns out that both truly are from a natural state or expression of your passion, then again, we go back to, it doesn't matter which one you choose first, you might as well flip a coin. Does that help?
Okay. It does. Yeah, it does help. Thank you.
Yes. We're trying to simplify this for you.
Yeah, because there's basically an option in my life which, although it's not exciting, it provides a level of support which will mean I can then go on to do more exciting things potentially.
All right, but again, be careful, because what you just said sounds like you're saying, well, if I do this, I'll get that. That's not how you act on your excitement. You're making that conditional now in the way you just phrased it. Oh, I'll do this because it's going to get me somewhere else. That's not the reason to act on your excitement, and therefore that may be your first clue that may not be the most exciting thing, because all you're talking about it is as a means to an end, and not the thing in and of itself that's exciting. Remember, excitement has to be acted on for its own sake purely, because that thing is exciting to you. So in other words, you have to be excited about feeling nurtured, not just use the idea of being in a nurtured space to get you somewhere else more exciting. You're making conditions there.
Yeah.
And you're invalidating the nurturing as nothing more than a means to an end and not a thing unto itself that you're actually excited about. Does that help clarify the choice?
Yeah, that helps me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, would you please be willing to describe your solar system?
Well, yes. You can find that to some degree also in the documentary that was done. But the idea is that we have a star like you do, which is called Shaw. And we are, like you, the third planet from the star. There is a small planet closer, another planet second. We are Ethithani, which is third. We are about 111 million of your miles from our star. Our year is longer than yours because our orbit is wider. Our day is about the same length, what you would call 24 hours, but our year is 454 days. Then there is a fourth planet, but then we have a large planet called Vamar, which is not in the ecliptic. In other words, its orbit goes like this, up and down, through the plane of our solar system. And then we have what might be referred to as a double planet, Chachupani. That has two planets that are gravitationally locked, orbiting each other, and in orbiting each other, they also go in an orbit around the star, dancing with each other, which is what Chachupani means, the dancers. That's a brief description of our solar system. But remember, we're in a parallel reality. You can't see our star from your reality. You would have to make a shift to our vibrational reality in order to see our solar system, in the same way that we have to shift to your vibrational reality in order to perceive your solar system physically. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, Bashar, and much love to you guys.
And you as well. Good day.
Good day.
Within a minute or two and becoming lucid.
Yes, well, again, anything that is outside the vibration, the pure vibration of staying in that state, is going to bring you back to physical reality focus. And again, the idea is you do have a physical life to lead, you do have a physical life to live, and therefore you're not necessarily going to stay in the lucid dream state that long, because you made an agreement and chose a theme where you need to focus in physical reality dream. And the more you become lucid in physical reality, again, the easier it will be to become lucid in the dream state as well. So the primary purpose of having a physical life is to know yourself, to be yourself, and to become more conscious and more aware and more lucid in the physical dream. Then that can leak into the dream on the other side, and vice versa. But remember that in the dream state, often many people are setting up in the physical world what it is they choose and need to experience, and therefore they're focused on that as being, at the moment at least, more important than becoming lucid in the way that you're talking about it in the dream state.
It seems like during lucidity, we have more abilities. Like some people can fly. Some people notice that there's almost an etheric glow to the environment that they're in.
Well, that's because they're in an etheric reality. And as we said, glows and lights and colors are different there.
Okay. So is lucid dreaming an important step in being able to experience physical reality as more of a dream, and also of connecting with other dimensions and things like that?
It can be, but it depends upon the theme that was chosen by the person. It's not necessarily more important.
So it's a permission slip that if you feel attracted to it, that would be something to delve into more closely.
Yes, it's not everyone's path. Yes, it's not everyone's path.
Just for our audience, there is a session on lucid dreaming that you did a number of years ago, and if you check with the chat, they can give you more information.
That can help if it works for some people, yes. But again, it depends on the path the person has chosen. It's in some ways more important to become more lucid in the physical dream.
So when we are more lucid in the physical dream, does it start to look more like a lucid dream?
Yes. And that's when you can also be more lucid in the dream state, because you have broken down the barriers that you have in your mind about what physical reality is. And the idea of the physical dream and the non-physical dream start to blend together. You lose a sense of difference and separation, at least to a degree, that allows you to become lucid throughout the entire spectrum of your consciousness, both physical and non-physical. So becoming more lucid in physical reality and seeing physical reality as a dream and experiencing the malleability of space and time in physical terms can actually give you more experience in the lucid spectrum between physical and non-physical reality. It can cause less of a perspective of separation.
So compartmentalization is also an aspect of lucid dreaming, like the less you have to compartmentalize because it hasn't been dealt with, fearful, negative belief, things like that, the more challenging it would be to lucid dream or some version of that. And it's reflected in physical reality also, that you perceive more and you feel more like you're in a lucid dream when you have broken down the compartmentalization. Is that
in general, for most, yes. There's going to always be exceptions to any idea you may propose, because different people will do things in very different ways. But in general, yes, that's true.
And does time actually have a difference? For example, that individual was saying, oh, it happens so fast and then I'm out of it. Is it possible that they're actually in the lucid dream for a really long time and you just don't know it?
Yes, relatively speaking, time is very different in the higher states. It's not what you experience in physical reality. And what may seem to be 5 minutes in physical reality could actually be experienced as 5 years in the non-physical state.
And in lucid dreaming, is that a way that you can connect with hybrid children and other beings and other?
I think you know the answer to that is yes.
I guess so. Just confirming.
All right.
Okay, now prophetic dreams are also a big question. Some people have prophetic dreams that happen years ago, and then they see it coming to fruition now.
Yes.
Other times, one person expressed a concern that the things that they were shown in this prophetic dream are actually connections they're making to other realities of other people that are having those experiences. And what would be the purpose of being shown something that's happening to somebody else like that?
Well, one purpose would be your reality contains the probability of what's happening in this other parallel reality, but you get to decide whether or not to keep the energy going in that direction or to change it and not necessarily let that play out in your physical parallel world. Wouldn't that be of benefit to many people, to examine what's going on in other parallel realities so that they can pick and choose what it is they prefer to experience in their own?
So in essence, most of us are going through the theme here of transmuting darkness into light.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So any dream or lucid dream or prophetic dream that you have can be brought more to earth, I guess, in the sense of recognizing it's about transmuting darkness into light. Is that?
It's a simple way of looking at it, but it can work that way. And again, always remember that it's not about a prediction of the future. It's about a sensing of the energy that exists right now, and therefore being given an indication of where that energy might lead and how it might manifest if it doesn't change. So again, you get to decide whether to keep the energy going in that direction or to change it.
So if they see a prophetic catastrophe in some way and they're feeling very fearful about what they've seen, what would be the way to process through something like that?
Well, first of all, not be fearful. Understand you're being shown a probable reality, not an inevitable reality, unless you're also sensing that there is so much momentum and energy behind it that it's unlikely to change. Nevertheless, it doesn't serve anyone for you to have a fear reaction of those things. The idea is that there still can be positive actions taken to either mitigate it to some degree, to let people know what the probabilities are, and maybe with the collective energy of more people knowing, then they can maybe steer it in a different direction. Or again, to simply prepare yourself to deal with the idea that it's going to manifest, and therefore allow yourself to be of service and be of assistance to those who may go through it in a negative way, and therefore be of service to them to bring them out of it in a more positive ending or conclusion.
So it's almost like you can prepare for that particular disaster, I suppose. And then at the same time, that also teaches you how to maintain being at the center of the cyclone, in a sense,
Yes.
the eye of the hurricane, so
Yes.
that you maintain your balance and your neutral posture, while at the same time recognizing that this may be a reality that's going to manifest.
Yes, because many people may have believed that they required that idea, and if it's not something you necessarily need to experience directly, then you can be something that's a stable influencing to help them recover from such experiences in a helpful way, in a positive way.
So these questions have to do with waking up from a dream and coming back to the physical body. There's a transitory experience that we'd like you to explore, and also why it can sometimes take time to feel resynchronized with and grounded in the body and the personality.
Yes.
So I guess they're asking you to explore what is this transitionary process of going from sleep into wakefulness?
Well, again, different people will experience it in different ways, depending on their relationship to the idea of the transition from spirit to physical reality experience. Of course, many people who experience the idea of spirit or astral realms and out-of-body experiences get very used to it very quickly, because that's your natural state. You remember who you are. You feel more expanded. You feel more loved. You feel more supported. So many people will have a little bit of resistance or a little bit of sluggishness, lowering their vibration again to reclaim the idea of the physical dream, to re-experience physical reality. And therefore it can require a little bit of time, because there might be a little reluctance to give up the freedom and the expansion that you experienced in the non-physical realm. It's not unusual, but again, most people are willing to play out the theme that they chose, even if it is a little bit slow or sluggish to reconnect to that idea, even if there's a little bit of resistance or reluctance to do so. And that can be the reason for the slower transitions, whereas some people, depending on what they experience in the non-physical realm, might jump right back in, might snap right back in, because they're so eager to continue with whatever it is they played out or planned out in the non-physical realm. It depends.
So it could also reflect the idea that if physical reality is very challenging right now, the idea of waking up into it may have resistance to that.
Yes, you experience a lot of this or hear a lot of this with what you call near-death experiences, where the person is out of the body, so to speak, for an extended period of time and gets used to the idea of being an expanded spirit and remembers who they are and how it feels and so on and so forth. And then you find that sometimes when they are resuscitated, brought back into the physical realm, a lot of them can actually experience anger for the moment at being so restricted again. But again, they usually bring with them the knowledge of an experience that will benefit them in life, and they will usually apply that and get over the anger relatively quickly.
I have heard of people who get quite depressed after that and go through a lengthy process of being depressed.
Yes, but again, the idea is that they may not simply be made to understand that they were given a gift that they can bring back and apply to the physical world, and they may simply be dwelling on the idea that, oh, I'm back here again, and now I have to go through this and do that. So their focus is important in terms of allowing themselves to know that more often than not, when you visit, again, the spirit realm, which is your natural home, your natural state, if you do return to the physical realm, there is a purpose to that. And if you focus on the idea that you've been given some information that can actually be of great benefit and service to your world, then it won't necessarily be experienced as depression.
Ego and subject perspectives of the three-dimensional world. What do you think is the best way to step away and further break limitations?
It's important to let go of the limitations that truly limit you from being yourself, but that doesn't mean that limitations are empirically negative. Remember, you're limiting yourself to have a physical experience. Therefore, you're using a limitation to a positive effect, so you can discover something new within yourself and grow and change. So don't just assume that all limitations are negative, or they must all be gotten rid of, or all let go of. You are using limitations for specific positive reasons, but you can let go of the ones that actually truly prevent you from being who you truly are within the limitation of your physical reality experience. So you have to know what limitations are working for you and what limitations are working against you. Limitation is just a neutral concept of creating a focus that benefits you or serves you in some way. So perhaps start using the idea of focus as opposed to limitations if you find that you can't give the word limitations a positive meaning, and see if that changes things up for you.
Okay, and this person is asking or stating that ahead of this social experiment, I think it is important to discuss how being social can be exciting. This person personally finds that if they talk about anything that is exciting to them, they speak very rapidly, like the speed of light. And even if people may not understand what they're saying anymore, they're probably excited by it. Is this good for building social skills, or should we just keep practicing by ourselves over and over again? And do you have any suggestions about how we can practice to build social skills?
Slow down. It does not necessarily improve social skills to be communicating faster than people can absorb it. Otherwise, you are simply superseding the idea of needing any social skills at all. You're simply shooting off in your own direction, and you're not really engaging others. So we would suggest that you find a way to balance it out so that even though people may pick up on your excitement vibration, and that can be beneficial, if there is something else in the information you are sharing with them that could also benefit them, but are preventing them from actually absorbing it by going so fast, then you're not really socializing. So we would suggest that you find a balance point so that everything that you believe is important for you to share, everything that is representative of your passion and your gift to share to other people, is something that other people can at least have an opportunity, a probability of absorbing. Not that everyone has to. You can find your natural pace, but moving so fast that most people can't follow you is not your natural pace. It is the result of impatience.
So some people are very good at storytelling.
Yes.
Whereas others are not.
Yes.
And that can be a factor in social skills.
Yes.
Can you make some suggestions about how to become a better storyteller?
Well, learn the elements. Learn the different points of story structure. They're innately built into your psyche and everyone's psyche. So when you hit those marks, when you hit those resonant chords in story structure, that's when people retain more information because you have hit those chords within them. They have felt you hit the marks that allow them the opportunity to make elements of that story relatable, to make them their own, in their own story. And they're willing to do that when you pluck the right chords in the right timing. That's real communication. So learn story structure and learn how to tell stories following that basic structure. Learn how to communicate information in that way. And you will find that more people will be receptive. That's how stories have lasted for thousands upon thousands of years. whereas information that doesn't follow story structure usually vanishes relatively quickly, is usually not retained.
And as far as other social skills that could be improved, what are some ways of practicing that? Or,
Well, you're being vague. What other social skills are you talking about?
well, they just call it social skills and they want to know how to practice it or do it.